The internet is dead and we killed it. Hello everybody and welcome to the very first Sharam Namdarian podcast, or as you people would like to call it, the Sharam Namdarian podcast. This is a brand new podcast with me, your local famous comedian, Sharam Namdarian, where we basically lay down the law of what the hell has happened in the week, in pop culture, in society, in who gives a crap, in what happens in my own life, and all the things that I have been thinking about. Because let's be honest, you don't know this, but I'm probably, I'm a massive overthinker. I don't say that as a bad thing. I say that as a level of empowerment. You know what I mean? Because if I say I'm an overthinker, I'm actually suggesting that you, that's right, you specifically, I don't know who you are an underthinker. So every time you listen to this podcast, this is your chance to go absolutely clinically insane. I'm saying absolutely batshit crazy. Completely forget what you are. Maybe we'll learn a thing. Maybe we won't. Who cares? This is just a chance to be insane because life is too tight, is too whatever. So my name is Sharam Namdarian. I'm a comedian in Melbourne, Australia. Some people know me for a lot of marketing stuff. Before I got into comedy, I was a life and relationship coach. But this is the brand new podcast that I'll be probably doing weekly, if not every 2 weeks. A regular schedule that you then will get your weekly dopamine hit. Maybe we'll have guests, maybe we won't, but regardless, you will leave this podcast dumber than you came. That is my number one guarantee here. So there's a couple things I want to say. First of all, if you are watching the video format of this, you will notice that I am topless, or if you are watching clips of this that I have clipped and put online, you will know that I am currently topless. Until we get to an arbitrary goal of around, 1,000 downloads, I refuse to put on a shirt, right? That's your motivation. You are sick of looking at me naked? Fucking share this with your friends. The second thing is there's gonna be a mailbox. That's right. Mailbox? What do you mean by mailbox? Malebox, that's right. It's a brave new world. No, mailbox is basically through Spotify, Apple, whatever. There is going to be a link that is there that you can click on, and you can actually send me a message. That's right. You specifically. You, right now, driving in your car, having me verbally abuse you through the audio that is your sound system, can send a letter and tell me to put on a shirt. So all you can do is you press that link, it'll open up a text platform. You can text me from anywhere in the world, and I can reply to it. Or more importantly, I can ignore it. So what you end up being is just a person basically texting into the void, hoping that you get a little bit of Daddy Sharam's attention. So that's really it. That's the whole premise of this podcast. I sort of want to get it out of it. I used to do one of my old podcasts. I'm not going to tell you the name, but we did around 1,000 episodes, and I thought it was really funny because at that point I was changing sort of careers. I still wasn't really sure about where I was going in life. I was really 100% sure about that career until I wasn't. And so I don't know if it was 99 or 999, some interval of 9, where it got to the almost the whole number, and my reply was, I told everyone, guys, it's the next one is the whole number. I can't wait to share with you what's next. And then I just didn't post an episode. That's when I realized maybe it's time to change. So let's talk about what have been on my mind this week. First of all, I want to talk about dead internet theory. All right, let's go down the rabbit hole that the internet is dead. That's right, I've decided to put a podcast out on the sinking ship of the Titanic that is the internet. So first of all, what is the dead internet theory? The dead internet theory is that basically AI is going to kill and has already started to kill the internet. It's by replacing the things that we hold dear, human connection, actually connecting with another person, with more forms of either filling it with what people like to call AI slop, that is AI-generated content that doesn't make sense, or just things that are designed to provoke engagement, which drives the algorithmic gods that we worship and we suckle at the teat of. But at the same time, this quote-unquote progress is actually killing the internet. So there are some good things and some bad things to this. So a really good way of sort of looking at it that I find is really interesting is the idea that realistically the internet can't, like, so for example, Mark Zuckerberg has announced that Meta, with all their various programs, Facebook, Instagram, who cares, has basically decided to start introducing AI users to drive engagement, to help the mental health of the people that are posting content to their platform. For example, if any one of my videos online don't go well, of me topless yelling about how the internet is dead, what Mr. Zuckerberg will do to make me feel better about myself is employ a legion of AI users, pretend users, fake profiles, fake names, hopefully designed to fool the user, the who you are. They've announced this to fool the user into thinking that, yeah, this is a real person. And then this real person starts to comment on my videos saying, hey, Sharam, you are great. Keep posting these topless videos. We don't want you to get to 10,000 views or whatever number you said because you don't remember it. You just made it up at the time. We don't want you to get to that thing. We want you to stay topless in these videos. So what will end up happening is that they will just, it's basically, the internet, to me, is already currently the social media landscape outside of the utilities of the internet. For example, Google Maps. I can now go to this place by looking up the name, and then that gives me directions. That's good. But what I find really interesting is that social media, to me, is connection by 1,000 cuts, right? I can dose up on human connection through, rather than getting a meaningful one-on-one long-lasting conversation with a friend like this is now, I can replace it with 1,000 individual connections. And I find that really interesting because how do you say that's true? Say you don't agree with clinically insane Sharam Namdarian. Say you don't agree with me 100%, but hypothetically assume you did. Now, if the internet, the social media landscape currently is connection by 1,000 cuts, and you start replacing those cuts with AI-generated content, what ends up happening is that we're actually replacing the cuts. It stops being connection by 1,000 cuts and starts to be just 1,000 cuts, or dare I say, no connection. And to me, that's the most exciting and interesting concept, because if that aggravates you, if that doesn't excite you in any particular way, then what ends up happening is that you are like me, and that we actually value human connection. That sort of stuff makes me realize that the reason why I go to a pub is not because I just want food, but I want someone else to make the food for me. There's human connection there. There's relief. I don't want to do it. Let someone else do it. On the other hand, we have, I want to go to a movie because I want to be entertained. I want to connect with other human beings. Not like, oh my God, fuck, did you see what that AI thing thought of? Oh, couldn't have thought of myself. We want to be inspired. We want to be provoked by art. Someone said to me in the last 6 months that artists are culture creators. Absolutely, that's it. Anyone who is an artist is playing one of the most important roles society has outside of doctors, lawyers, nurses, plumbers, builders, people who are electricians, engineers, people who make cars and make the electricity thing, happen, the people who actually work on the internet, politicians, the government, hospitals, the ambulance drivers, the fire truck drivers, outside of everything else that is useful, what is left over is just humans trying to connect with humans. So the artists take that role where we are meant to connect with other people. We're meant to be like, hey, what's up? Hey, why did the chicken cross the road? I don't know. It was trying to get away from its parents because it was sick of the parental trauma. Like, that sort of stuff plays a role. And if we start replacing that, and already people are replacing the inspiration, the part that is that helps create culture, like sitting down with a fucking blank piece of paper and being like, what is funny about this? What is creative about this? What do I want to create? We're already in a society where so much of what creates inspiration is no longer fully there. So we're either going to have to go in one or two ways, where either we do fully replace all of these things with eventual technology, which is, like, it's funny because I do feel like every generation says like this, like, mobile phones have killed our imagination, and then the next generation's like, AI is killing our imagination, and the next generation is like, super omnipotent super intelligence is replacing our imagination. We used to, in the good old days, we could just press a button and it would just tell us what to think, and then after that we've got, plasmoids are replacing the super intelligent this mega thing. I know every generation is like that. My dad used to tell me that he would go, every day, son, every day. I went to school on a donkey in the snow, in the desert. And I would be like, what was it? Was it the snow or the desert? I can keep your story straight. And he's like, son, I don't understand anything you have said. Because, anyway, the apple did not fall far from the tree, is what I'm trying to say. That's both an insult to my dad and to me. But I know every generation has their thing where they go, this shit is replacing us. So I do say, like, take all of this with a grain of salt. Every fucking American president is a doomsdayer to someone and a savior to the others. Less can be said that about Australian politicians because, to be honest, the only way I can remember the current Prime Minister of Australia is that quote, well, if you don't vote for me, then Anthony Albanese will be the Prime Minister. And it's like, thanks, the other guy. Like, that's how I remember that, is through a joke. So I do think that with the prevalence of technology, when things start to be replaced, we do connect with what it is we really want, and that is watching a shirtless man rant about potentially conspiracy theories online. And that's right, I'm also bald. That means I'm just like all the other bald podcasting bros that will eventually collaborate with all the other podcasting bros. And when you eventually see me doing a podcast with Joe Rogan, and I will get him to be topless with me, you won't be able to tell the two gelatinous blobs of skin apart. We will just be masses of skin with eyes and mouths and just communicating, and you'll be like, this is what we died for in the Great War. So what this pod is, dead internet theory, getting our fill. The other thing that's been on my mind recently is aging, right? So I'm 34 this year. I'm turning 35, and like you know, death and time comes for us all. I do feel like this weird sense of feeling in me, but I do see that I'm growing and changing as a person, and that while I was very mature for my younger age, I'm definitely becoming immature in my older age. And I really hope you relate to that, because we should all be that. You know, we play the role of our parents, that we are like, that's what, like, imagine right now, what does a mummy and daddy look like to you? You know, that is your image of who you should be and what a proper person should be. And so your question now is, the question should be, is that what you like? And so if that isn't what you like, then what you should be thinking about is who I want to be when I grow up. Because if you're not consciously cultivating that, what ends up happening is you end up subconsciously moving towards things that you don't even realize. For example, you know, like my dad, and I do love him. I love him from far, but I do love him. He is a potato man, physicality, a potato man on stilts. Basically, he has the body of a potato and the thin legs of a very effeminate man. And I have that too. It's the legs is the genetics, but I realizing many years ago that's not what I wanted to be growing up. That if I didn't actually consciously cultivate this, that's who I would become. And so you can do this with all your exes, because it's funny to do with your exes, that imagine them now. If you've ever met your ex's parents, and then now that you've aged, because, you know, the death and the slow wheel of time closes doors of opportunity, that you can meet, if you imagine them now with the body shape of their parents, that's not crazy. I'm not crazy to fucking I'm not crazy to say that, you know? And so if you're not consciously cultivating it, but what I've learned is that it's so strange for me because I meditate a lot. And so that does make me better than everybody else. No, what I'm trying to say is I've actually worked through a lot of trauma and shit like that, which then gets me to the point that, weirdly enough, there's a lot of feelings and emotions in my life that I've been hungry for, yearned for in my younger age, that now as an adult, I actually realize that I myself almost have got my fill, if that makes sense. Like, I never realized that, you know, at a young age where, especially if you're a young, virile man who's soon to lose his hair, but a young, virile, potent man who has more body hair than what he knows what to do of, you know when you're that, and your name is Sharam Namdarian, but what ends up happening is that you're a people pleaser. You want to connect with people. You don't even want to meet the people. You actually value volume of people, which is a strange and almost borderline sociopathic thing to do. You crave the weird one-on-one connections with the people. So what ends up happening is that you do meet people, you get over your social anxiety, you keep pushing yourself into weird and wonderful and crazy social situations until the only thing left for you to fucking do with your life is to become a stand-up comedian because you just want to meet more people. But here's the interesting thing, the very interesting thing, that I have got my fill. It's like, how many more people do I want to meet? I've met like 20,000 people. Apparently the brain can only hold like 150 relationships at one time. And my cats take up 90% of that. You know, them waking me up in the morning, bam! Papa, give us food, baby! That's my impression of my cats. One of them's, I'm making waffles. One of them's Eddie Murphy's the donkey, and the other one is like a little German man. Hello. I am the leaky cat. I am a Hughie cat. Anyway. The point is I'm getting my fill, and I don't know if you relate to this in your old or young age. I don't know anything about you. Please mail in. Use the mailbox button in the actual podcast description, which I hope works. For the love of me, I've promoted it, and there's another promotion at the end of this video. Ooh, sexy. But what ends up happening is that I did not realize that in my older age, as I'm aging, that I can actually get my fill. That I'm like, I've met enough people. And so I've made jokes about this on stage where realistically, I'm actually trying to just still get my fill of meeting people, but I'm trying to compress them all into one. Like, I don't want to meet the people. I still want to feel like I'm meeting people. So that's why I have a crowd, you know? But it's really interesting that one of the things I actually do struggle with is this process of me moving through from changing careers. I don't know if you've changed careers. Again, don't know you. I'd like to know you. You know, maybe we could have a first date podcast. You know, it's the same thing. I'm still topless, but we're actually on a date. You know, maybe that would you like that? Mail in. The point is like the thing I struggle with from moving from coaching to comedy. I was a life and relationship coach, and moving into comedy is that realistically, it's like I wanted to help the world until I dealt with the trauma that forced me to think I want to help the world. And then what ended up happening was I got my fill. I didn't crave helping people anymore, not in the same way. I wasn't trying to unconsciously glut and fill my fucking soul, my bottomless whole black heart of a soul with as many people as I could, just to help and help and help and help and help and help and help. Because realistically, the wound was I was trying to help my parents' relationship, and I couldn't do that, so I just had to help other people. You know what I mean? And then I resolved that emotion, and it was a changing of guards. It was almost like night and day. It was like, I don't need this anymore. I don't need to promote it. I still have clients, whatever. I don't promote it. I don't know what to do with it, but I know now that struggling with it supports me. The process of not knowing what to do with it does actually support me. But it is really interesting because it's like when you do get your fill, like, hey, I wanted, you know, like there's one of these jokes I have where it's like, oh, like, my girlfriend's like, hey, do you want to go to the shops? And I say, why would I want to go to the shops? I've been 40,000 times in my life. Like, that is so true. That is so true. We are in a space where these things are so true. Anyway, I've hit all the topics I really wanted to hit on. So let's talk a bit more about what this podcast is, because you sort of want to know that. But realistically, if you are watching the video version of this, I do have a fun hat on, which is called the Sharam Namdarian podcast hat, basically. Now, this hat is a hat that I will eventually be selling. I still have to... I've got the side up, I've got this, I've got the hat! You can see it! You can see it right now with your eyes, or if you're listening to the audio format, you can listen to it right now with your eyes. I have the hat, I have the system set up, I just haven't figured out a small part of the system that fucks up the logistical process of me actually selling the hat. So in the future, you will be able to support the podcast by getting this hat. This is my way of pushing it. I want this podcast to eventually be the funniest shit you've ever heard of as I talk about some of the most emotional, most current affairs-y shit you've ever encountered. But regardless, look, this was the very first episode. I'm pretty happy with how we've gone. This episode's lasted for around 20 minutes. They will be varied. They'll go for hours. They'll go for half an hour. Who knows? Who cares? But if there is a specific topic you want me to talk about or you find really interesting or a current affairs, please do not hesitate to use the mail-in thing. And this podcast should be available on everywhere where you see podcasts, which includes YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, all that crap. Who cares? I don't know you. But anyway, you've been great, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.